What happens when you tear down a piece of American history before you have the money to replace it? Well, if you're looking for the answer, just take a walk past the White House right now. What you'll see isn't pretty. This morning, federal marshals showed up at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue with a cease and desist order. The scene? A massive construction site where the historic East Wing used to be. And as of today, everything has ground to a complete halt. We're talking about Trump's grand plan for a $400 million ballroom, the kind of luxury project he's been dreaming about since day one of his second term. Except there's one tiny problem. The money's gone. The donors have vanished. And a federal judge just handed down one of the most brutal court rulings you'll ever read. This isn't just about a construction project going wrong. This is about what happens when ambition crashes into reality, when promises meet legal consequences, and when the optics become absolutely devastating. Let's break down exactly what went wrong and why this could be the defining image of Trump's second term. Rewind to late 2025. Trump had just been inaugurated for his second term, and he wasted no time announcing his plan to transform the White House. According to leaked memos, he thought the existing East Room was embarrassing. He actually used the words third world to describe facilities where American presidents have been hosting world leaders for decades. His solution? Build the biggest, most luxurious ballroom you can imagine. We're talking 90,000 square feet, gold leaf everywhere, 30-foot ceilings, and get this, a dedicated victory balcony that would face the Treasury Department. The whole thing would cost $400 million. Now here's where it gets interesting. Trump knew Americans wouldn't exactly love the idea of taxpayer money going to a massive party venue, so he made a promise. Private donors would foot the entire bill. He called it a patriotic gift to the nation. Billionaires lining up to make the White House great again. But here's what that plan required. Completely demolishing the existing East Wing. Everything. The family theater, gone. The First Lady's offices, destroyed. The historic gardens, excavated. Preservationists absolutely lost their minds. The National Trust for Historic Preservation immediately filed a lawsuit. Their argument was simple. You can't just tear down a UNESCO-level historic site because you want a bigger dance floor. But Trump had a card to play. The Department of Justice found a loophole. They claimed this wasn't just about having fancy parties. They said the new ballroom would include an underground bunker, a replacement for the aging Presidential Emergency Operations Center. Suddenly, this became a national security issue. Judge Richard Leon, a Reagan appointee, was skeptical, but faced with the national security argument, he made a deal. You can demolish the East Wing, but you cannot start building the new structure until the money is actually in the bank and all permits are approved. Trump took the deal and ran with it. Within weeks, wrecking balls were literally hitting the White House complex. Images of dust covering the Rose Garden shocked the nation. But Trump was betting he could pressure the donors and bulldoze through the regulatory process. That bet just exploded in his face. Here's where everything falls apart. This morning, Judge Leon came back, and according to the court transcript, he was absolutely furious. In a sealed filing late Friday night, the administration admitted something massive. The $400 million in private funding doesn't actually exist. It was all based on non-binding commitments, pledges, promises, the kind of handshake deals that sound great until you need actual cash. The donors? Hedge fund managers, real estate moguls, casino tycoons, the usual MAGA donor class. And remember what just happened this week? The Japan bond market crashed. Trump's properties in New York got seized. The Davos trip turned into an international embarrassment. These donors are currently dealing with margin calls and watching their portfolios bleed. When the Treasury Department actually called to collect the money for the ballroom on Friday, the donors ghosted. One Las Vegas casino magnate who'd pledged $50 million formally withdrew Saturday night, citing market volatility and fiduciary responsibility. Translation: I'm not touching this disaster with a 10-foot pole. Judge Leon's ruling is absolutely scathing. He wrote that the executive branch demolished a historic federal structure based on phantom capital and broken promises. He's not allowing the People's House to become an abandoned construction site. The order? Immediate stop work. And here's the kicker. If the funding isn't secured within 30 days, the General Services Administration has to restore the site. That means filling in the hole. Think about that for a second. A federal judge might force the President of the United States to fill in a crater and plant grass where a historic building used to stand. Trump could end up being the president who made the White House smaller and less functional than when he found it. But wait, it gets worse. Remember that national security justification? The whole reason this demolition was allowed to happen in the first place? Yeah, that just got completely destroyed. Judge Leon unsealed a classified Secret Service report that the administration tried to hide. Turns out, the Secret Service actually opposed this entire project. Their assessment? The massive construction zone creates critical security vulnerabilities. The open pit exposes the foundation to drone attacks and tunneling risks. And the design of the glass-walled ballroom? The Secret Service called it a sniper paradise and a surveillance magnet. The administration used national security as a pretext to bypass historic preservation laws when the project actually hurt national security. The judge caught them in a straight-up lie. That means this ballroom isn't a government necessity, it's a vanity project. And under federal law, you absolutely cannot destroy national monuments for vanity. Let's talk about what this looks like, because in politics, optics are everything. Trump is a guy who's obsessed with image, gold towers, perfect suits, projecting total control. Instead, he's now living in a construction site. Every morning, he wakes up to a view of a mud pit from the residence windows. Piles of dirt, idle machinery, orange safety fencing. For months, staffers reported that Oval Office meetings were constantly interrupted by the sound of reversing trucks and pile drivers. Now it's silent, but that silence is even worse because it represents complete failure. Every foreign leader who visits has to drive past what the media is calling the Trump crater. When the UK Prime Minister arrives next month, their motorcade will pass a hole in the ground covered in blue tarps. Every news broadcast from the North Lawn has yellow construction cranes in the background. It's a constant, physical, undeniable reminder that Trump started something he couldn't finish. Compare this to his campaign promise. I build things ahead of schedule and under budget. I will rebuild America. This project is behind schedule, over budget, unfunded, and now illegal. The Japan market crash gave donors an excuse, but that's not the whole story. The real issue? Trump's brand became toxic. After the Davos disaster, where world leaders openly laughed at him, nobody wants their name associated with this project. Imagine being a Fortune 500 CEO. Do you really want your name engraved in marble on a ballroom that's being sued by every preservation group in America? Plus, according to polls, the next president is likely to be a Democrat. Nobody wants to donate $50 million to a building that might get demolished in 2029. It's a terrible investment. There's also a legal angle. The judge hinted that if donors signed affidavits claiming the money was secure when it wasn't, they could face fraud investigations. The donors are lawyering up and distancing themselves at record speed. The Trump donor class is fracturing. Democrats are already weaponizing this. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries released a statement calling Trump the demolition in chief. The metaphor is powerful. He tore down the East Wing, the economy, our alliances, and now he's standing in the mud of his own making. Independent voters are disgusted. Focus groups are asking why he's building a $400 million ballroom when gas is $6 a gallon. The contrast between his luxury obsession and voters' economic pain is lethal. Even Republican senators are quietly furious. They have to go on TV and defend why the White House looks like a strip mine. There's talk of a Senate inquiry into who authorized demolition without secured funding. If that hearing happens, it'll be a televised disaster. The judge gave Trump 30 days, fined $400 million in actual cash, or fill in the hole. Can he find the money? Maybe, but the options are all terrible. He could try diverting military funds, like he did with the border wall, but the judge's order specifically bars using appropriated funds without congressional approval. And Congress isn't helping him. He could try getting a foreign government to pay for it, the Saudi ballroom, but that would violate the emoluments clause and be instantly impeachable. The most likely scenario? The GSA hires contractors to pour dirt back into the hole, plant grass, and restore the exterior wall. The Trump ballroom becomes a phantom, a historical footnote. For a man obsessed with leaving a physical legacy, this is the nightmare. He wanted to leave a palace. Instead, he's leaving a patch of fresh sod where a historic building used to be. Let's talk about what was actually lost here. The East Wing wasn't just office space. It was built during World War II under FDR. It stood for over 80 years. It housed the First Lady's staff, the engine of soft power and diplomacy. By tearing it down without a solid plan, Trump severed the social arm of the White House. Reports say Melania Trump's staff is now working out of a spare room in the Eisenhower Executive Office building across the street. The First Lady is reportedly furious. The National Trust for Historic Preservation, usually a polite organization that saves old post offices, viewed this as an existential threat. They sued a sitting president because they believe the White House belongs to the people, held in trust, not owned by whoever happens to be living there. The judge's ruling solidifies that principle. Trump will now be watched with a microscope for every renovation request for the rest of his term. Here's something most people are missing. There's a potential criminal element to this. If the administration submitted affidavits claiming the money was secured when it was only promised, that could be perjury. The judge ordered the White House to produce all donor commitments by Wednesday. He wants names and signatures. If those documents prove the money was never really there, someone could go to jail. Probably not Trump himself, but maybe the GSA administrator or the campaign finance chair. This just turned from a construction dispute into a potential fraud investigation. This week started with lies at Davos about Greenland. It continued with a financial crash in Japan. It hit home with property seizures in New York. And it ends with a hole in the ground in Washington. The foundations of this presidency, money, fear, image, competence, are crumbling, just like the East Wing. We're watching a president under siege in his own home. He can't build, can't borrow, can't brag. The only thing left is rage at the mud pit outside his window. If the GSA issues that fill-in order, that'll be the moment the Trump era officially runs out of concrete. The builder president became the destroyer president. And that hole in the ground on Pennsylvania Avenue, that's the proof. What do you think? Is this the defining image of Trump's second term? Or is there still a way out of this mess? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.